everybody, my name is Eric Hopkins. This is my good buddy Brandon, and this is our NFL recap show for Week 1 here in the National Football League. But before we get started, if you're finding us for the very first time, please click that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you get all the notifications about when I put up new content right here on this channel. And of course, we're going to be going through all of the games and scores and highlights, injuries, probably talk a little fantasy football, all sorts of good stuff here on our NFL recap show for the first week of the NFL season. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into these scores and updates here, because we've got a lot to talk about now that we've actually got some games to cover on the channel. So that'll be good to see. But we'll start out here with the opening night kickoff on Thursday night last week. The Dallas Cowboys lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers win 31-29. Very close game. And to be honest, I thought the Cowboys should have had this one in the bag at the end of it here.
Yep.
But
I was
yeah,
gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. But unfortunately, you cannot leave Tom Brady a minute or so on the clock for him to go down and drive down the length of the field to get the game-winning field goal here. And Ryan Suckup does just that for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. The Cowboys' offensive red zone struggles continue, but Dak Prescott did look good. That's good for you in your fantasy league for sure.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
But you know who else looked good? Tom Brady. Tom Brady looked like Tom Brady, and Antonio Brown also looked good. Not Mike Evans, not so much in this game though. Mike Evans.
Antonio was a freaking star.
Yeah, it was almost like this was the Antonio Brown from the Pittsburgh Steelers days.
Yeah.
All of a sudden showed up here in Tampa. So, yeah, he had a little bit to do with their Super Bowl run at the end of last year. But, obviously moving over to the Buccaneers, had to learn a new offense, that sort of thing. So it probably took him a little time. But it seems like now I'm starting to wonder if Mike Evans might be the odd man out here with Chris Godwin. And, of course, Gronk getting, I believe, 2 touchdown passes in this game as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that was going to happen.
Yeah, which, I mean, the thing with Gronk, though, with me was, especially last season, he would show up. I know he showed up in the Super Bowl. He caught that touchdown there. But there were other times where he just completely disappeared. So it's kind of hard to tell with me with Gronk. But, yeah, Mike Evans, I'm sure there'll be better days for him, for those of you who have him in fantasy football, I'm sure. But yeah, this week was not Mike Evans' week for sure. Neither was it a good week for Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott did not have a good game here.
It was like their run game was just getting stuffed.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line is part of the reason for that.
Hey, Nate said something about this too at work, because he's a Cowboys fan.
Right.
He was talking about the fact that, Zeke looked like he slimmed down.
Yes, he does.
And the thing with Zeke was, Zeke had this, this power / speed thing.
Mm-hmm.
And slimming down, he's probably a lot faster, but it's like he lacks the power to kind of truck through some of these tackles up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then again, it's still early. Who's to say he doesn't develop a strategy for that? Then he starts picking his spots, breaking through these holes, and taking off. You know what I mean? So, and
it looked like his cuts and all the routes he was running and everything looked good. It was just he definitely looked smaller. That's all.
Yeah, he was just getting stuffed.
It makes you worry more about maybe his durability, things like that too. So
yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, as you pointed out, it is 1 week. So any of these games, week 1 is where everybody tends to panic. And it's like, okay, it's 1 week. And a lot of times, teams who look good for the first month sometimes don't even do well toward the end. So you just got to wait and see. Sometimes NFL is sometimes about teams coming on strong at the right time. And a lot of times, September is not the most important thing. But if you can come on a little bit later in the season, that's all that really matters here. But it is worth to note here that the Tampa Bay game, the Buccaneers did have 4 turnovers. But in the end, it was too much for Dallas as they left too much time on the clock for Brady, as we mentioned here. But Brady also got a little help from possibly potential no call for pass interference on Chris Godwin. He looked like he got a little bit away with a little bit of a shove there at the end to kind of set them up for that field goal. But that's the break sometimes in the NFL. Sometimes calls don't go your way, and that happened. And unfortunately, it did not end well for the Buccaneers. But also interesting to note here, Tom Brady, he is the most. What's that?
I mean the Cowboys.
Who did I say?
Didn't
The
do
Bucks.
well for the Buccaneers.
Okay, it did well for the Cowboys. My bad. But also to note here, Tom Brady is the QB with the most wins in Week 1 games since at least 1950, with 15 wins in Week 1. Again, I mean, it's hard to debate that he probably is the greatest of all time at this point. I hate to say it because it burns me as a Colts fan, but it's kind of hard not to say it at this point. But yeah, so Buccaneers win Week 1 and they move forward. We also had the Houston Texans defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars here 37-21, but this game wasn't as close as the final score indicates here. Trevor Lawrence ended up getting, I believe, at least one touchdown pass in garbage time here in this game. The Houston Texans come out here, and I'm going to tell you right now, as a Indianapolis Colts fan in the AFC South, if you'd have told me when this week started that the Houston Texans would be the only one in the division to win a game, I'd have said you were crazy. Because Houston, to me, I still don't think Houston's going to have a very good season. I don't. But in this game, they actually looked pretty good. I mean, Tyrod Taylor had some good plays. Mark Ingram, David Johnson, and Phillip Lindsay, all of which scored in this game. All three running backs. So they've got a nice rotation there, definitely for sure. Brandon Cooks got some play. So, I mean, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. But Jacksonville, to me, is also a team that's kind of going to have to go through some growing pains here. Trevor Lawrence did look okay. I did not see anything super bad here, but he did throw 3 interceptions. But he also had, I believe, 300-some yards of passing. But yeah, the Houston Texans defense got 3 interceptions in this game against Lawrence. The Houston Texans defense, all of last year, only had 3 interceptions. So they're already matching last year's output, so that's good for the Texans. But, yeah, my nitpick for the Jaguars in this game was like, all right, give the ball to James Robinson a little more. And I'm not saying that as a guy who owns James Robinson in a fantasy football league, but at the same time, you had a 1,000-yard rusher last year. He touches the ball 5 times in this game. Come on. I mean, I understand that Carlos Hyde also touched the ball 9 times, but yeah, Trevor Lawrence was throwing like crazy. But, of course, most of this game they were down, so that does make some sense as well, why maybe the running backs didn't get as much run here. But, yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer looks like they're going to have a little bit of a growing pains to get used to. So, but the Texans 1-0 and leading the division right now, which is insane to me. But we'll see how it goes. Also, we had, let's see, I don't think there was any injuries in that game, I don't believe. I don't want to shoot right past it there. No, but there was one I wanted to talk about from the Thursday game before we move on here. Wide receiver Michael Gallup for the Cowboys had a calf strain, and he is now likely out 3 to 6 weeks. So that's interesting to note. So for all you people who have him in fantasy, might need to keep an eye on that. Also, before we get too far into these rest of these games, there was an injury last week that affected the Monday night game this week. The Baltimore Ravens running back Gus Edwards, before Week 1, tore his ACL in practice. He is done for the season. So now that means J.K. Dobbins was out for the season, Justice Hill is out for the season, and now Gus Edwards is out for the season. All 3 running backs, boom, 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 within a matter of weeks, go down for the Baltimore Ravens here. So they did go out and sign the recently released New Orleans Saints running back Latavius Murray. They also signed Devontae Freeman and, of course, Le'Veon Bell. But it looked as if during the Monday night game here, we're now into the fourth quarter of that game as we're recording this, and the Ravens are ahead 17-10. They look to have been running their 4th-string running back, Tyson Williams, and Williams had a nice touchdown run in this game, so he looked really good. So maybe that's the guy they go with, but they were interspersing Latavius Murray a little bit there. We'll just have to wait and see what they do. So interesting to note all that as well. All right, so we'll move on to the next game here. The Los Angeles Chargers defeat the Washington football team 20-16.
Why?
Why is that?
Because they don't have a fucking name.
That's why, they had no mascot. That's been their downfall here. What was the bigger downfall in this game was the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick got injured. He has what they call a hip subluxation. I'm not quite sure what that means. It's probably not. I think they're running tests to see the extent of the damage on his hip, but apparently it was definitely moved around, and I don't know if it was. It doesn't appear to be fractured, but it could be dislocated, things like that. So they got to go in there and check it. But he is going to miss at least 3 weeks, but he's been put on short-term IR. But Adam Schefter reported that he is scheduled to miss 6 to 8 weeks. So more info to come on that injury. But Taylor Heinicke will start with Kyle Allen as his backup, the former Carolina Panthers quarterback. So the Redskins, the football team. Yeah, so it looks like they're kind of having a rough start to their season with their quarterback. Seems like the football team, Washington quarterback, has a little bit cursed at this point, it seems like, over the last few seasons. So sad to see there. The Chargers, though, I thought that they looked pretty good. Justin Herbert, Again, a guy who owns him on a fantasy league. I don't think that necessarily, I mean, he had a good game, over 300 yards passing. I believe he had one interception, but only had one touchdown pass too. So can maybe see a little bit more there. Austin Eckler didn't quite, have the game many fantasy, managers probably expected as well. But the Chargers do just enough to get a win here against the Washington football team. So good for them there. And the head coach Staley was also the first Los Angeles Chargers head coach to win a debut since Norv Turner in 2007. So good for the head coach there as well. So. All right, this next game we're going to get a little bit more into here, since we're both Colts fans here. Seahawks come into Indianapolis and beat the Indianapolis Colts 28-16. Another game that didn't quite feel like it was that close. There were times where the Colts pulled within, I think, 3 at one point. Around halftime or so, but in the second half, it just kind of felt like it was all Seattle a little bit. The Seahawks are 12-1 in their last 13 games, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that early game for the Seahawks is working for them. There is a little bright side for Indianapolis as Colts fans. I'm trying to encourage my buddy Brandon here, which I'm sure he'll give his thoughts here in just a second. But the Colts did come away from this game relatively healthy. No major injuries to talk about here. But with that being said, there's a lot of negative too here. The offensive line, that left tackle especially, with Costanzo being retired now, is the major weakness. They desperately need left tackle Eric Fisher to come back from his Achilles injury to shore up that side. Because what was happening, Quentin Nelson, our left guard, was trying to kind of give help to the left tackle, and when he was freeing up the center, Ryan Kelly, but he was getting blown by defenders. So Quentin Nelson can definitely do a couple different things here, but when you move to one side, the other side is going to be the weak side. And of course, Carson Wentz was running for his life a lot of this game. But notwithstanding, though, Carson Wentz did look productive in this game, so I was happy to see that. Did you see any of those highlights from Carson Wentz?
I did, but I didn't get to watch the game obviously because I was watching a different game.
Yeah, we'll get into that game.
It's just one of those things, like I told you, like. I'm at this point where, like, I know it's the first week. And so for me to be like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. It's just, I just, like I told you before, when we were first talking about it, I just want a decent start to a season. And, like,
it's not going to be this season.
In a week one, it's like, all right, I go in high hopes and then get shitted on. And then I'm just like, all right, whatever. Like, But it's week one, okay, somebody has to lose. I mean, granted, I wish it wasn't us, but all right, we move on from here. Yeah. Okay, where do we go now? You know what I mean?
The Colts, too, they mentioned as well that it's now 8 straight season openers that the Colts have lost. So it's nothing new for the Colts. And they have definitely, every year that Frank Reich has been there, they've had 10-plus win seasons. So that's encouraging to know that all is not lost. As you said, it is 1 week. And for all these teams who have lost, it's 1 week. You can recover from this. But the Colts' secondary issues kind of concern me, with Tyler Lockett going off for 2 touchdown passes. One to DK Metcalf, and I believe another one to Gerald Everett, that Russell Wilson just kind of floated over the top. Even Darius Leonard at times kind of looked a little like he didn't know where he was, like what position he needed to be in or whatever. So there was some definite concerns. But my hope here for this team is we have seen this particular group of these particular set of guys, with the left tackle notwithstanding. That's going to be a new player regardless who it's going to be. But the rest of these guys, we've seen them perform better than this. So I'm not panicking yet. I think it's something that can get corrected, but we'll have to wait and see. It was encouraging to see Carson Wentz play well, despite the fact that he was under fire all day long. If he gets protection, and the left side of that line can open up some run lanes for the left side of the field for Jonathan Taylor as well, that'll help. So we'll see where they go, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm expecting a loss in week 2 already, and possibly week 3. So we may start 0-3 here, which is going to suck. Because next week,
don't you wish that bad juju on?
I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but the Los Angeles Rams looked really good on Sunday Night Football, and they come into Indianapolis next week. And, of course, after that, we got the Tennessee Titans on the road. And, of course, the Titans had a rough day themselves. But, again, 3 tough teams to start the year. And, of course, then we got Miami, and I believe Baltimore's in there. So this is not a very good early stretch. And So this may be a little bit tougher of a schedule than we originally thought. But again, it's 1 week. Some of these teams look good 1 week, and then week 2 they may look terrible, and vice versa. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes here. But at least everybody came out of the Colts game healthy. For the Seahawks, though, they did come out with one injury. Running back Rashad Penny left the Colts game early with a left calf injury and did not return. He is expected to miss at least a few weeks here. And the Colts earlier this week did re-sign running back Nyheim Hines to a 3-year contract extension, so that's good to see here as well.
Okay, real quick, that's what me over too. I knew there was players I needed. I told you this at work. I was trying to set my roster, right? I'm like, okay, I had an idea who I wanted to put in, who was going to start, whatever. I thought this all in my head, and then I never did it.
No, which part?
No change.
Oh, the players.
They changes to my roster.
Yeah, you just all your good players were on the bench.
Yep.
I mean, that's the way fantasy football is, man. It's rough. I hate that part of it, but that's why we play the game, so to speak, as they always say. So we'll see what happens here in the future. But yeah, we'll get more into some of our players as we go through this year, I'm sure. Speaking of which, one of my players actually had a good game, but he did not score a touchdown pass or run or a pass. But Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers beat the New York Jets 19-14 here. Christian McCaffrey has his 5th career game with 80-plus rushing yards and 80-plus receiving yards, but again, did not score, but again, still had a good fantasy football day for me, so awesome. I'm projected to win this week in my league that we're in. But the Panthers, I thought there was also another touchdown pass from Sam Darnold to Robbie Anderson in this game. How good must that have felt for those two guys to do this against their former team here in the Jets? With the Jets, again, they're struggling. But Zach Wilson, I don't think looked too terrible from what I saw. Yeah, I mean, the Jets are going, again, another team that's going to have to learn to get back to their winning ways. It may take them some time. But the Panthers here look actually pretty good with Sam Darnold. A lot of people thought Sam Darnold, he's not going to be that good. But I kind of thought that leaving the Jets and that coaching staff, of course, they got a new coaching staff in the New York as well. But the Darnold, given the proper coaching and proper talent around him with some of the receivers, and of course Christian McCaffrey, nothing wrong with having him in the backfield. That'll help him out a lot. But I think Darnold is in for a pretty decent season, if you ask me. No real big injury news to report from this game, so that's good. So let's move on to a game that went into overtime and almost was a tie, as a matter of fact. The Minnesota Vikings lose to the Cincinnati Bengals 27-24 here. The Cincinnati Bengals 1-0 here. So yeah, this game was pretty closely contested. Went to overtime. I believe there's like 30-some seconds left when they got into field goal range here. They get the game-winning field goal from 33 yards out as time expired. It was literally like the last play of the overtime. So that is incredible. But, the Bengals, I thought, Joe Burrow looked pretty decent. Jamar Chase, the rookie who was not catching any passes in preseason, they come into the week 1. Everybody's talking about, can he even catch? Has I believe it was 2 touchdown passes in this game, or 2 touchdown receptions. Good to see there, and he may be the best wide receiver on the Bengals roster at this point. The Minnesota Vikings, Dalvin Cook obviously looked good, but it kind of took the Vikings a little bit of time to get going here. The Bengals did get up kind of early, but the Vikings made a game of it here. Adam Thielen had a touchdown pass as well, but Justin Jefferson didn't have as big of a game as a lot of people would have hoped for, I think. But the Bengals here getting the win here, and the Steelers and the Bengals now lead that division, and the Browns and who's the other? Oh, the Ravens. We'll see how they do here. They're looking to be leading here with 10 minutes to go with a touchdown lead, but that game can still go either way. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, looks like the AFC North is definitely here to play, no doubt about it. Then we had a game that took me by surprise. The Arizona Cardinals just completely destroyed the Tennessee Titans here. 38.
Yeah, that was crazy.
38-13. Yeah, I didn't expect that at all from the Tennessee Titans, who were close to Super Bowl contenders the last couple seasons here, especially, I believe, last year, if I remember correctly. But, first time in Arizona history, multiple wide receivers each had 2+ reception touchdowns in this game. Kyler Murray was on fire here. I believe he threw for 4 or 5 touchdowns, something like that. 4, I believe it was. Christian Kirk still exists. Who knew? A.J. Green actually, was running some good routes. I don't know if he had any big catches or anything like that. And now we got a tie ball game on Monday Night Football, just so you know here, with 9 minutes to play. Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals, though, completely. Chandler Jones, let's talk about him for a second. I believe he had 4 or 5 sacks in this game by himself on poor Ryan Tannehill, who looked flustered. Chandler Jones could not be stopped here, so big time play by that guy. So yeah, but Derrick Henry, kind of disappointing. I believe A.J. Brown did have a touchdown pass here, but Julio Jones also got scolded by his head coach Mike Vrabel after the game. Mike Vrabel basically said, I guess he got into a shoving contest with one of the quarters and it cost him 15 yards on a penalty at one point, which would have been 3rd and 1 and ended up being 3rd and 16, which hurt the Titans. And of course, Mike Vrabel then said, "That's that dumb shit that we don't teach here." So he was not thrilled with Julio Jones. So Julio Jones' tenure in Tennessee not starting off on the right foot with the head coach. So it makes you wonder if Julio Jones and the team are getting along as one might think. But I don't know. Sometimes those diva wide receivers, man.
You're always you're gonna have that, and it sucks that that you get this. You know what I mean? And it's like you guys make a lot of money, and sometimes egos, what have you, whatever the case may be, and it's just like, all right, you guys are doing the most right now.
Right. Yeah, it's like, it's just, and to me, Tennessee did. I think they lost Corey Davis to the Jets as well. I believe. I think that's where he was beforehand. But so I understand maybe needing a replacement and stuff like that. But and Julio Jones, on paper, sounds great. Obviously big time receiver in Atlanta, but at the same time, sometimes you change the scenery like that does not always go well, and it feels like it's maybe one of those instances, especially with Julio Harley having a hard time staying on the field and getting older and things like that. So I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, it's 1 week. Maybe they get him reeled back in and under control a little bit, and try to simmer down the coach's problem with the receiver right now. It was a dumb penalty. He didn't need to be doing any shoving and things like that, which cost his teammates here. But we'll see how this goes. But as of right now, the Titans, surprisingly enough, did not get the Week 1 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is a stud, and he showed it here. The next game, we had the San Francisco 49ers defeated the Detroit Lions 41-33. This was a bit of a barn burner. The San Francisco 49ers at one point in this game, I believe, were up 41-17. I believe what it was. Maybe it might have even been 41-10. And the Detroit Lions really made them sweat it here toward the end of the game. They got an onside kick and everything like that, and really made a ball game out of it. Came within 8 points and really came close to tying this game, sending it to overtime, but did not happen here. The 49ers scored the most points in Week 1 in a road game in team history, so that's interesting to note here. Also, but more importantly, for you, I know for sure, San Francisco running back Raheem Mostert went down with a knee injury. Apparently, they're saying he has chipped cartilage in his knee and will miss about 8 weeks. He's been placed on IR, but Elijah Mitchell fills in pretty well in this game for the injured running back. No Trey Sermon, which is interesting. A lot of people thought he would be the backup running back, but instead they put in Elijah Mitchell here and had a good game, over 100 yards and a score. But the Detroit Lions, DeAndre Swift had a pretty decent game. 49ers, interestingly enough, too, in this game, Brandon Ayuk did not get a single target in this game. A lot of people wondered if that was injury related, but he was, from what I could tell, I think he still played. So I don't know if maybe there's something else going on there we're not aware of. I don't know. But, interesting enough, the 49ers do hold on for a victory, but it could have just as easily been a loss because the Lions were definitely crawling back into it. And Jared Goff looked good, and T.J. Hawkinson also had some good plays as well. So it looks like maybe Hawkinson could be one of his go-to targets. We'll just have to wait and see here. Next game that you did watch, the Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Buffalo Bills 23-16.
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about this game?
I don't know. Like when we started watching it, when I turned the game on, the Bills were up 10-0. Mm-hmm. And it was slow going at first.
A lot of defensive stops and punts.
There was.
Yeah.
I will say this, that Pittsburgh defense, so
that's a good offense.
They were holding.
Against. Yeah.
And here's the thing, like there were quite a few times where they got close to taking out Allen. Quite a few times.
Yeah.
But at the last second, like I said, he just stood in the pocket and owned it. You know what I mean?
He's a good player.
But there were a couple of occasions where it was like, "Yo, they got him," and
Nope.
And PJ was all over the field, dude.
Yeah, you said him and Devin Bush both, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
and there was one one or two plays on the on the defensive side that were like should have been picks, and they were just either right off the hands. Um, there were certain occasions where it, on offense where one was one of the passes, one of the first passes we seen. Um, maybe it's just miscommunication on Claypool's part and Ben's part, but Ben was waiting for him to cut back, so he throws the ball like just right behind him, and you see him turn around. He ends up like smacking it. Like, it was just miscommunication, which would have probably resulted in a touchdown.
Right.
There were a couple incidents like that, and then there was some like that on Buffalo's end too, where I don't know if the pressure was just getting to Allen, and then he overthrew a couple balls, but a couple of them were almost picked off.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name. The defensive player I'm thinking about, that he was covering the crap out of crap. I'm gonna draw a blank on all these dudes' fucking names. Now it's gonna piss me off.
But anywho,
But I mean,
yeah.
Their defense looks solid. I mean, but their defense always solid.
Well, I'll tell you right now,
Let's just
if the defense could hold up and limit the Bills to basically 10 for the majority of this game, I think they ended up with a few field goals late.
Which they did.
But at the same time, to keep that offense, I don't know, held to 10 points. That's good. And so you could look at that as a win against that high-powered offense. So, but at the same time, Buffalo's defense is also good. Now, and I was about ready to ask you, I wondered if your wife Miranda, as being a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan as she is, also has Ben Roethlisberger as her quarterback in fantasy football. Any concern on her part or your part for Big Ben? He didn't even have 200 yards. Passing.
See, there's always that. There's always that concern with Ben, but like it's one of those things where he's like, he gives you see him that first game and you're like, come on, dude, maybe it's time for you to hang it up. And then like 2 or 3 games in, you're like, no, you still got it. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it's still early, like you said.
Yeah, it's like one of those situations where he needs 1 or 2 games to go. Okay, all right, I'm back in it, and then he'll play just fine. And you're like, nah, you stay another year.
Well, and like I said, Buffalo's not a bad defense themselves. So 188 yards, I believe, is what he had, and I think he only had 1 touchdown pass and things like that. But again, such a tough defense on both sides of the ball here. It's kind of hard to gauge the offenses a whole lot because even I, who have Najee Harris, also kind of felt like, all right, he's a rookie, I get that, but only 54 yards on the ground, that sort of thing. It's kind of like, all right, there's going to be better days for everybody in this game, I think. So we'll just have to wait and see.
And I will say this: neither side can get anything running wise going.
Right.
I mean, I think Buffalo made out a little better on the ground, but not by much.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was.
And their running game isn't the greatest either. They're mostly known for their throwing attack. So Zach Moss is their number 1 running back. It's kind of like, well, Devin Singletary, I think, is still there, but
yeah, Singletary is still there.
But
he didn't do much. It's one of those situations where it's like it could go either way. Yeah. But
it kind of is.
I mean, I wasn't like, she wasn't totally down about it. I mean, it's first game, but
it is.
I got to tell you this story too.
Okay.
I was going to tell you this at the beginning. I forgot. So, we're getting our fantasy stuff set up for the game to throw, and it was it Friday? No, it might have been Sunday. No, Saturday. It was one of those days.
It was a weekend.
It was Sunday because we were getting ready to go to work. Going in for overtime.
Right.
And Jaden was awake. Jaden, our older son, was awake. And Miranda's complaining about Brandy, who she's playing against, setting her, making changes to her lineup. And Jaden goes, well, why don't you just make changes? And Miranda says, I don't need to. My team is perfect.
Oh, wow. Uh-oh.
So this morning, Miranda is sitting there and Jaden's getting ready to take the dogs outside. And Miranda goes, man, Brandy's kicking my butt. And Jaden, without missing a beat, whips around and goes, I said your team was perfect. Dude, I almost fucking died. I looked at him like,
that was the one you said. It was like perfect. Yeah.
It was.
And the boy's still living? I'm just saying,
Missing a beat. He just whips his head around slowly, gets this smile on his face, and goes, I thought you said your team was perfect.
Oh, my.
And I looked at Miranda like, yo, You look back at him.
Would you like some ice water for that bird you just got? But no.
It's so funny.
Well, Brady, if you're listening to this, yeah.
And I go, there are times where I question whether or not he's my kid. And then he does shit like that. And then Miranda goes, yeah, he's yours.
He's yours, all right. but yeah, the thing that really turned this football game, well, it really didn't turn. I guess the Steelers actually had the lead at this point by 3.
Yeah, they did,
but was the block punt that ended up being returned for the touchdown for the Steelers here. Big time swing of momentum, and after that, it was just kind of Pittsburgh's game, I think. I mean, the Bills were still trying to get back into it, but they really didn't get back on the scoreboard a whole lot after the field goals. But yeah, so that was a big time play for the Steelers here. But yeah, definitely looks like Steelers defense is legit, but that's kind of Steelers football. So that's what they do. They run the ball, do the offense the best they can, and play good defense. So if they stick to that formula, I'm sure they're going to be successful as always. It's also interesting to note here, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 5-1 in their last 6 road games versus Buffalo. So they've definitely had Buffalo Bills number here over the last few times they've played. So interesting to note there as well. The next game, another blowout, which is kind of surprising to me. The Philadelphia Eagles destroyed the Atlanta Falcons 32-6. Jalen Hurts, 264 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, and 62 rushing yards. Looked like every bit the...
Brother, she was so mad.
Because she didn't have Hurts?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Did he get drafted in our league, or do you remember? I don't know if he did or not. He might have.
Yeah, he did.
He might have, but...
Wait. That's who I was thinking about. She was mad about. She was mad about the other quarterback.
Well. Anyhow.
Who has Jalen Hurts?
Not sure. Well, you look that up though. The Falcons. I don't know what happened here. They did not look good at all. I actually have them under my list of bad teams this week. My good teams, I had the Cardinals, Bengals, and Rams, and of course the bad ones are the Falcons, Packers, Colts, and Titans. They all looked not real good, and I say that as a Colts fan, which is hard. It's hard for me to say, but it's true. The Falcons just felt like they really couldn't get a whole lot going here. Mike Davis is, to me, I just can't buy into him as their number 1 running back. And, of course, losing Julio Jones. Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts, they tried to get him the ball a little bit, the rookie tight end. And he caught some of them, but he also dropped some of them, or they did get to him, whatever it might be, incomplete passes. But the Eagles here, obviously, a big touchdown pass. The first go ahead.
She does own Jalen Hurts, and she didn't play him.
Oh, that's what it was. It was on her bench, but yeah. Rookie wide receiver Devontae Smith, his first touchdown catch, or first catch in the NFL was a touchdown pass. So that's always cool to see for a rookie as well. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, maybe that's a guy that maybe she thinks about playing at some point here. I wouldn't blame her. Yeah. Nothing against Big Ben. Again, he's a good NFL football quarterback, but in fantasy terms, a lot of times he's not the greatest fantasy player. So maybe she could make that change and probably be good for it. But yeah, so big time. A lot of people thought in the preseason the Eagles had a lot of work to do, but this game, maybe the Falcons got a little more work to do than the Eagles do. So we'll see where they go, but not good for Atlanta, but definitely good for Philly. And I believe they now lead the division. I believe they're the only team in the NFC East to get a win this week. So there is that. Another game, what I would consider the game of the week. The Cleveland Browns come up short against the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City wins 33-29. A lot of people online were like, were stunned that the Cleveland Browns were in this game. In my opinion, it's like, did you not watch the playoff game last year? The Browns are right there. They just got to get over that hump, which is probably Kansas City. They beat Kansas City. They're going to be on their way. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see these two teams face each other again in the playoffs this year. We'll have to wait and see. But, the Browns are going to be just fine. I have no worry about that. Everybody was getting on Baker Mayfield for throwing that final interception. But at the same time, if you go back and watch that play, he was trying to throw it out of bounds, trying to make the right play. Guy came up from behind and tripped him and just knocked him down as he was throwing it. So it was just an errant pass. It happens to the best of them. So, and I'm sure Mayfield will beat himself up for it. But the game that they should have had, they had him beat. They had the lead.
That's the thing. Like, they had one of these Super Bowl champions, by their throats.
At home in Kansas City, for that matter. Not only that, like I said, they had the lead until they didn't punt the ball hardly all in this game because they were scoring. Both teams were scoring. So the one time they try a punt, the punter mishandles the snap, tries to get what he can out of it because he can't kick it, otherwise he'll get destroyed. So he tries to run around and try to get as much yardage as he could not get anywhere, and it set the Kansas City Chiefs up, I believe, around the 15-yard line. So you give Patrick Mahomes the ball on his own side of the field, he's going to score, and the score they did, and you give an inch, they'll take a mile situation, and the Chiefs never looked back after that. It was the first time they had the lead of the entire game, but they had the lead when it mattered, and that was at the end. So, like I said, the Browns are going to be good. The Cleveland Browns, though, it's interesting to note here, it's kind of a rough stat for them. They are 121-1 in season openers since their reintroduction into the league here in 1999. So, yeah, they've only won one game on opening weekend in their entire history since being back in the league, which is crazy to think about. But, yeah, they're going to both teams are going to be just fine, and they're going to have good seasons, I have a feeling. But a team that we don't know if they're going to have a good season or not, the New Orleans Saints, on a neutral field, mind you, in Jacksonville, due to the Hurricane Ida that went through New Orleans, they could not play in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome or whatever, I think it's what they're calling it now. The Saints, though, destroyed the Green Bay Packers 38-3. This is the worst loss in Aaron Rodgers' career. And not to mention, Aaron Rodgers did not look good in this game. He was overthrowing receivers, and it just looked like he looked old, is what he looked. Now, there's speculation.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because of where he was last year.
MVP. Yeah, MVP of the league, literally. But, of course, the whole offseason stuff about maybe I don't want to play in Green Bay anymore.
He's doing it on purpose.
There's some people saying online he did it on purpose. I don't necessarily think I'd buy. But
I don't think he would do that to the rest of the team.
No, I think a lot of it, if anything, is probably like maybe some of the holdout stuff. Maybe he just didn't have his timing down very well with some of these guys. I mean, you take time off like this, you're not in the groove. That could be some of it. Granted, a lot of the players are players he's played with before. And especially Aaron Jones, you'd think he would have better day on the ground, but this team did not look good at all, especially on offense and on defense. They made Jameis Winston look like the best quarterback in the NFL right here. But I think it's a little bit of a mirage.
Really blame him if it was all the way around.
Right. It was. I mean, it was just a poor team effort, and even Rodgers said so after the game that it was, it was just a bad game from us. And we got to get better, sort of thing. But Jameis Winston, 5 touchdown passes in this game, unreal. It's a career high for him. But again, I feel like this is a little bit of a mirage because, yes, 5 touchdown passes, but I believe he only had 14 of 20 completions. So 14 times they caught the ball, 5 of which were touchdowns. Not to mention he only had 148 yards passing in this game. But again, such a blowout. They probably ran the ball with Alvin Kamara for the most part anyway to kind of ice this game away. So it's kind of like he didn't have to throw it any more than that. But the times he did throw it, hit pay dirt every single time. So, but for at least for 1 week, Jameis Winston looks like every bit the quarterback the Saints have been looking for since Drew Brees retired. But we'll see if that holds or if it's kind of 1 week wonder. But the Packers, I gotta imagine. I'm assuming you would agree with me. The Packers have better days than this because, I mean, it can't get much worse. This was about the bottom of the barrel when it comes to NFL showings here. Yeah. But Rodgers will be back. They'll get it figured out, I have a feeling, and they'll still be within the conversation here. Just an update, too. The Baltimore Ravens are now up 24-17 with about 4 minutes to go on Monday Night Football. We'll let you guys know what the score is if it goes final before we get done recording here. Next game up was the Denver Broncos defeated the New York Giants here 27-13. Saquon Barkley did play in this game, but coming off his injury from last year, didn't play much. And when he did, I believe he had only like a total of 20-some yards. So it's going to probably be a little bit of work in progress. I know the head coach, said he's questionable for this Thursday's game against the Washington football team on Thursday Night Football for Week 2. But They said they also expect him to play, so he'll probably continue to ease back into this, but it may not come right away. Not only that, the offensive line for the New York Giants is absolutely atrocious. It wasn't good last year. It's not good again this year. So it's probably going to throw off everything on that offense. So if you've got any stock in Daniel Jones or, in my case, Kenny Golladay, you might want to rethink it a little bit. But maybe it'll be one of those things that gets better, but as of right now, it's not good at all. And Melvin Gordon for the Denver Broncos cracked off a 70-yard touchdown run here. He had 100 yards on the day, but 70 of which are on one run that he absolutely gashed the Giants defense here. So it might be a rough year for the G-men in the Big Apple, so we'll have to wait and see here where else that goes. Next up, the Oh, I guess, yeah. The Dolphins defeat the New England Patriots, which I am not crying about, personally.
Brother.
Anytime I can see the Bill Belichick Patriots go down, I'm a happy guy. Same with Tom Brady, but that's just, some old Indianapolis Colts bitter rivalry going on there. But the
I will say
Dolphins,
this,
yeah.
you know, going with Mac Jones, I don't want to say it was the wrong call
No, he
here,
looked okay. I think it looked fine.
but I think you should have thought your decision through.
Yeah, I still think it's probably better than Cam overall. Just my personal opinion. And Cam, who knows with the injuries in the Washington football team, maybe he gets picked up. But never know, never say never. But
Mm-hmm.
Mac Jones, I think, looked efficient. But again, first NFL game ever. Uh, as the Raiders just now tie the football game here, 24-24 with 3 minutes to go. We got a barn burner on Monday Night Football here. Darren Waller gets in for the touchdown. So that game may go to overtime. We'll just have to wait and see, but there's still plenty of time to go. But yeah, I thought the Dolphins looked efficient here for the most part. I mean, Jalen Waddle, the rookie receiver, second player in Miami history with 60-plus receiving yards and a touchdown in his first career game. So good showing here for the rookie receiver here. Obviously, the Patriots had some opportunities to get back in this game. Damian Harris fumbles, kind of costing the Patriots some opportunities here down the stretch. And, of course, the Dolphins get the 1-point win. But, hey, I'm sure the Dolphins will take that. They've been getting beat by New England for years. And I'm sure our buddy Barkus at work will also love that score as well. But the Patriots, I kind of feel like this is kind of where they are. And maybe I'm going to be proven wrong in the coming weeks, but it kind of feels like they may be close in some games. They're going to lose some games, but they're in a rebuild type situation here, and Mac Jones will probably look to improve. But that's just kind of my thoughts. You got any thoughts on it other than that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Because I saw John Barkus when I went to work.
Was he gloating?
Yeah.
Well, he's a happy guy today, I'm sure.
I had to look John in the face and go, John, fuck them fish. Okay.
See, it was your fault, man. You said last week on this show, F them fish, the Colts lose, the Dolphins win. So, again,
nah, I still
you want to call me the jinx, man. I mean,
He was like, but he did go, but my team won. I was like, fuck them fish, Joe.
Yeah, they did win. So as of right now, his team has the better record. So say what you want. Now, that may not last. We'll have to wait and see.
Shut your mouth.
I mean, I hope the Colts get it turned around, but I'm a little, especially the next few weeks, I'm concerned. Next week especially, that Rams team, which we're going to talk about them right now. The Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football, our last game of the week, besides the Ravens and Raiders, which we'll talk about a little bit here. The Rams defeated the Bears 34-14. This game wasn't nearly as close as it looked. To the Bears' credit, though, they stopped the Rams' offense a little here and there, played some decent defense in spurts. David Montgomery looked good at times, I thought. Had a good touchdown run early on. But the Rams, just from the opening jump here, Matt Stafford looks like he just made the right decision to go to L.A. He had no interceptions. He had 3 touchdown passes here, and that Rams offense looks scary. And Aaron Donald, granted he wasn't getting to the quarterback as much, but he was creating some disruption in the backfield there. Jalen Ramsey was all over the field making plays. This team looks legit and possibly the best defense in the league, and that's not encouraging for me as a Colts fan with the Rams coming into the Colts stadium next Sunday. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, that's about all I really want to say about this game, other than the fact that the Rams are 5-0 in Week 1 under head coach Sean McVay, so they've not yet lost a season opener, so that's good for them. Not to mention the stadium looked absolutely beautiful on Sunday Night Football. It's the first time a game with fans have been played in that stadium, and I believe that is also the stadium that's going to be hosting Super Bowl 56. So that'll be interesting to see as well. But yeah, so I guess we'll talk a little bit about the Monday night game that's going on currently here before we preview Week 2 a little bit. From what I could tell, from what I've seen of this game, I thought, boy, it looked like Lamar Jackson was not in the game there. Maybe it's just me. I saw the wrong number. But early on, as we mentioned, the running back situation for the Ravens was a big problem. But Tyson Williams cracked off a big 20-some-yard run to kind of go up on the board here with he ran right up the middle, breaking a lot of tackles and stuff like that. Looked really good. Darren Waller, it looked like the Raiders have been forcing the ball a little bit to Darren Waller in this game. I think Henry Ruggs left with a non-contact leg injury as well. We'll see how bad that is. Oh, I'm sorry. Lamar's okay. He's in there. But yeah, this is definitely 24-24 right now with 2 minutes to go. So yeah, we'll see. We probably won't have the finale or the final score here by the end of this podcast. But yeah, so definitely interesting to see how that game plays out for sure. But any other thoughts on the week 1 games before we move on to week 2 a little bit?
No.
Trying to see if I missed. Well, there was a couple more injuries, or one more. Jerry Jeudy for the Denver Broncos. He is out 6 to 8 weeks with a high ankle sprain. I don't know if you saw this, but when he was getting tackled from behind, and when he got tackled, the guy landed on his leg and rolled up on his ankle. So he's lucky he didn't break his leg or his ankle. Let's be honest. So he got lucky that it's only a high ankle sprain here, but that's going to keep him out for probably about half the season, which is a shame. So that's unfortunate. They're one of their best receivers and their rookie from last year. So that's a shame for the Broncos. But they did get the win, but it was a costly win at that. All right, so let's I guess we can go into a little bit of the standings here. The Dolphins lead the AFC East with 1 win. The Steelers and Bengals are leading the AFC North. The Texans are leading the AFC South with 1 win. The Chiefs and Broncos and Chargers all with 1 win in the AFC West. The Raiders, we'll see if they pull out a win here. They could be a very tight division there if the Raiders get a win. The Philadelphia Eagles are the only team in the NFC East to get a win. Nobody won in the NFC North. The Lions, Bears, Packers, and Vikings all with losses this week. Then the New Orleans Saints, Buccaneers, and Panthers all won in the NFC South, and the NFC West. Talk about your competitive divisions. The 49ers, Rams, Cardinals, and Seahawks all win this week. So big time wins there for that division. So let's get into week 2 of the NFL season here. We got the New York Giants at the Washington Redskins on Thursday Night Football this week. Saquon Barkley, like we said, we're probably playing that game with Taylor Heinicke now at quarterback for the Washington football team. So we'll see how that game goes. We got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Chicago Bears. Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase going up to Soldier Field. That could be interesting. Houston Texans at Cleveland Browns. I got a feeling the Browns will probably get back on the right track here, but Houston pulled out that stunner last week. Of course, this is a much better football team they're going to be going up against here, so we'll see how that goes. The Los Angeles Rams at the Indianapolis Colts. The Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. Interesting. Both teams again, getting better. The New England Patriots at the New York Jets. I got a feeling the Patriots probably get their first win here. That's just my... But if the Jets beat New England, might be panic time in Foxborough. But that's just me. San Francisco 49ers at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Las Vegas Raiders at Pittsburgh. So how do you think your Steelers are going to go, or the Raiders Steelers are going to do with that?
I think the Steelers will be fine.
At home.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's
I mean, they're taking Baltimore to the limit here, so keep that in mind. The Raiders are.
Right,
so,
yeah.
I mean, never say never. And of course, the Raiders are at home in this game. They'll be on the road at Pittsburgh. Always a tough place to play there. The New Orleans Saints will be on the road at the Carolina Panthers. The Denver Broncos will be at Jacksonville. The Minnesota Vikings at Arizona. That could be an interesting one with the way Arizona played week 1. The Atlanta Falcons against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Might be a rough start for Atlanta here. The Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Chargers. That could be an interesting one with 2 high-powered offenses there. I might want to watch that game. That's a 4:25 game on CBS. Tennessee Titans at Seattle. Another one that could be tough for the Titans. The Colts lost to them, and that one's all the way in Seattle, so that'll be interesting. Kansas City Chiefs at the Baltimore Ravens, or the Sunday night game. That'll be a good one. Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. That could be fun to watch. And the Monday night game next week, we'll actually get an up-close and personal look at the Detroit Lions at Green Bay, and we'll see how Aaron Rodgers looks coming off that horrible loss. I'm sure it'll be a talking point all leading up to the Monday night game, so that'll do it for week 2's preview. So, yeah, good slate of games going forward here. Again, as a Colts fan, I'm expecting another loss, but we'll see what happens here. Let's hope they can actually pull off the stutter here and take out the Los Angeles Rams. But we'll keep our fingers crossed here in Indiana. But I guess if there's nothing else to add here, I guess we'll call that's that for this week's show, I suppose. And we'll get out of here, and we'll be back next week for another NFL recap show where we'll be going over all the injuries, highlights, news, and everything from NFL Week 2. And we'll let you guys know all the stuff that's been going on around the league. And if you're finding this for the very first time, by all means, please hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get all the notifications about when we put up new content right here on this channel. And until our next video, guys, take care.
Bye.